We are back working on the front wheel drive to rear wheel drive swap Fwd, and once again we're getting straight back into it. So today is another very exciting episode, I would say. Last episode we put in all the effort on our rear subframe. It is in, it is hacked. I've added a couple more welds since last time, triple checked everything. It all seems great. What I've also done is drilled our holes, and we have our bolts currently going through to where our subframe will mount. One of our bolts is a little short because I ran out of bolts, so I have to get another one, but that'll do for now. So straight away what we get to do is we get to mount our subframe onto the body for the first time, which is pretty cool. And then I think also what we can do right now is mount our rear coilovers, or at least test fit our rear coilovers. Chances are we'll have to fab a top hat into the strut tower here. So depending on the length of the coilovers, we'll either re-drill to suit the S13 top hat, or what we'll do is cut it out, we'll make a new top hat altogether that'll have like a tube, but I'll show you guys that later. So first things first, let's mount up our rear subframe. So if we've done our job properly, then the subframe should technically stay on the car as we lift the hoist up right now, which I'm hoping like heck it does. Check this out. Woo! Subframe fully mounted in the car. When I say fully, it's definitely dummy mounted. We've still got to take it out and do a bunch of fab work to finish everything off, but like, it's rear-wheel drive, technically. Look at that, all the way through. Crazy. All this excess metal up here, like all that'll be cut out. Everything's gonna be seam sealed, done super nicely. But the way I'm attacking this build for the video purposes is getting everything like tacked up, mocked up to where it's all looking good. And then basically I'm gonna spend a whole day just finishing off all the welding and fab work. So that'll be like the little things like this isn't fully welded, for example. So like just finishing all the welds, plating off this area here, finishing off all the gearbox welds, seam sealing everything, finishing welding the rear subframe in, boxing all of this stuff back in so that it's super strong and ready to go, and just tidying everything up. This is another monumental moment though, like just having that subframe mounted in there and knowing that it fits, and like we have full movement up and down of our rear arms is like, that's exactly what we were aiming for. That's why we use this subframe. Simple, literally took me like, you know, probably solid 6 hours to get this in here and where it is, which is pretty darn good, I think. Now I think we're gonna have a go at mounting our max speeding rods coilovers. So we talked about these in the last episode. The link is in the description. Grab yourself 10% off. These are awesome. These are their T6 up-spec coilovers. I've got them in the E36, they're fantastic, but they seem like they're probably just gonna go straight into this rear end with minimal modification. So I'm gonna re-drill the top hat for the S13 top hat stud pattern, and then down below, all we have to do is chop off this wee guy right here, just this bit of metal, and basically it should bolt straight in. The only thing we have to worry about is the length of the coilover. So if it's too long to where we can't get the car slammed, because you know we want to run this car super low and just have it looking gangster, we will recreate the strut towers at the back, basically by chopping the top off, adding tube in, and then, you know, welding a nice new plate on the top, so that we have the full stroke of the coilover, because we don't want to be lowering it, cutting the springs or anything, and then you lose the stroke of the shock. You want the full stroke, you know? You know, no one wants to be half stroking. So right now, let's go ahead and let's see if these coilovers are gonna fit and mount some rear wheels. We're making so much progress constantly on this build. Hit that like button if you're enjoying it.
We're using a pair of verniers to measure the exact amount we need to cut off our lower coilover mount, as it needs to be perfect so it doesn't move around in the subframe. Once we've made the cut, we mark the holes for the top hats in the body of the car and drill them out with a Christmas tree drill bit, nearly breaking my arm in the process. Once that's done, it's time to mount our coilover for the first time and see if it all fits.
I'm just dummy fitting these at the moment, so don't stress, but I do think that I'm going to redo this top hat. I really just want to do it nicely, so I think we'll basically add a big piece of tube here, and that way we can do a custom top hat specifically for this coilover, and it gives us our lows, which is awesome. But for now, the dummy fit works pretty well. I'm just astonished that these coilovers actually fits so well into our MX5 rear end and our CE Lancer, which is pretty crazy. So we'll chuck this bottom bolt in and we'll drop this gearbox jack away and kind of see how it all looks. There is our coilover test fit. Not bad, guys, not bad at all. That is crazy to see. Rear-wheel drive subframe, coilovers, how good. Not bad. Look how center we got it. All of our measuring paid off. Like, that is bang on in the center there. Obviously we still have adjustability within the arms as well, the stock arms, so that we can adjust our camber and whatnot. We've also got to extend the top arm because we're going to get this bad boy nice and flat. One thing you will notice is that this is kind of in more in the guard, and that's because the MX5 rear end is 20 millimeters total narrower than the Lancer rear end. So that's 10 millimeters each side. Luckily we have these beautiful things in the world called spacers, so we can whip some of those on and this thing will be looking chunky once again. But the fact that we have a rear wheel on at the moment, I'm stoked. I may not seem like super over the moon, I'm still recovering from my sickness, but like inside I'm feeling stoked. On the outside, I'm still pretty stuffed, but we have a freaking rear-wheel drive rear end in our car, guys. Holy crap. All right, that is enough on the rear end. It's basically where we need it to be. Now it just needs the fab work done to tie it all in properly. Then we can paint it and start actually, you know, fitting things for the final time properly. That's later down the road. Now we're jumping straight to the front of the car. So I've purchased everything that we need to get the front of our car all together. LCAs, S13 knuckles, we've got brakes, hubs, everything. I got all the stuff from Osaka Imports. These guys are amazing. Paul at Osaka, it was so helpful. Not a sponsor of the channel whatsoever. Paid full price and was happy to, but dang, the stuff's getting expensive. I gotta tell you, I'm gonna do a full price breakdown probably midway through next week for you guys as a bonus video, just to let you know where we're at in terms of how much money we've spent on this car. But it's pretty up there if I'm honest. I did have a budget in mind when we started this. I haven't added everything up so far, so it's gonna be interesting to see whether we're gonna hit that budget or go way over. Hopefully not, because I'm just a dude doing all this stuff by myself. I still work technically a day job for myself as a digital marketer. Obviously I own Two Step Garage and Drop the Anchor, but they're like up and coming businesses that I'm putting a lot of time and effort into also. So this is all quite a struggle. I have day-to-day anxiety in terms of how much money I'm spending on the channel. So if you guys do want to support the channel, jump on twostepgarage.com, grab yourself a sticker or something or other. It helps a lot. droptheanchorclothing.com.au. All that stuff is here in-house. We ship it all out from here. The Drop the Anchor clothing's insane, so grab yourself some. But anyway, because this is a front-wheel drive car going rear-wheel drive, we're going to have to do a bunch of work to get it all to fit, right? We've got the subframe in. The LCAs go onto the subframe. So that's what we're going to do right now. And then we're going to have to figure out how much we're going to have to extend these LCAs to get them to where we would want the wheel to fit. So let's fit the LCA now and kind of see where we're at. Front end on the car, just dummy fitted on. So at the top we basically just have it like bolted into one of the old bolt holes, and then the bottom we have obviously the LCA in, knuckle on, coilover holding it up, and this is kind of how it's sitting at the moment. And as you can see, the wheel is too far forward in the wheel well. This is the hard part with figuring out which way to do this and which thing to do first. So obviously we've got to build like a top hat to house the S13 strut right up top. But we don't want to build that straight away, because where we build that is going to dictate the caster of the steering alignment. So the caster is like the angle of your coil over here. So as you can see up here, like if we have the top hat back here, the caster angle will be stronger. Now we're also going to have to extend these LCAs so that we can have the hub sitting out further as well, because at the moment, obviously this is a front wheel drive car. Like the way this sits is so far in, and the body is like so far out. So we need to push the hub outwards more. Now obviously you can do that with spacers, but that's not the way you want to do it. You actually want to extend the LCAs first as much as you can, get them, you know, out. And we should be able to extend the LCA to the point where we can get it, you know, that toy fitment up front. And since we're going to extend the LCAs, I was actually going to cut this point here, cut the brackets off and shift them over down the back here. But since we're going to be cutting and extending our LCAs, I figure I may as well cut them and extend them to like where it kinks out, so that this shifts backwards. So that is my plan of attack. Hopefully some of you who are suspension gods in the comments don't roast me for this and this isn't the wrong thing to do. Hopefully not. I mean, let's be honest, we're winging this whole car, so who knows? I'm sure you guys will let me know in the comments below, but regardless, let's get chopping on our LCAs. Also, just quickly, we have a rear bumper on the E36 now, and like, how freaking sick does that look? I wrapped it, looks mad, I'm stoked. Let's go.
I had a plan in my head for how these LCAs were going to come together, so I made the necessary measurements and started cutting. Unfortunately, once I put the puzzle pieces together, I realized it wasn't going to work. But hey, that's the nature of the game when you're doing something for the first time. In the end, I went with a straighter design that dialed in the angle using an angled cut on one end. Once the LCA was tacked, I threw it back in the car.
So after a little bit of fiddling around, this stuff is always going to be trial and error, and it's never going to be perfect first time for the most part. I think we've kind of gotten somewhere. This is with the LCA in, and the wheel is in a much better place in the wheel arch. It's definitely not center. I don't think we'll ever get it center like here without absolutely screwing the whole geometry of the, the steering. But that looks way better to me, for sure, which is pretty cool. So you can imagine this would come down somewhere like around here, front bumper. We may have to do a little bit of modifying there, depending on how much lock we get with the angle kit, because we will be cut and shutting these knuckles. But that looks pretty good to me. So a lot of you will be questioning extending the LCAs. So a lot of people extend these and box them. Which is what we'll be doing. So you box them off underneath, and that just makes them way stronger. So we'll box them all the way through to about here, just makes them heaps stronger. Obviously we still need to be able to access the caster rod bolts. I did chuck the caster rod in just to have a quick look, but again, we'll probably modify this and extend it to get our adjustability back within the rod. I've extended it all the way out as far as it goes. This is the caster rod bracket, so it slots up in here. So to both of these, and then this caster rod bolts up in here, right? So obviously these are custom frame rails, so we're never going to be like exactly the same as S13 because the length's, a little bit different. But it actually worked out very well. So all we'll have to do is extend this here. We'll probably just cut it, weld some rod in so it's longer, and we'll get the adjustability back. That'll all bolt up here, and everything's going to bolt up pretty nicely. That also means up top, so the car's lowered down now. So here's where our top head is. It's kind of just hanging in there for dear life with one bolt while we dummy everything up. But up here, I thought potentially we might have to make like a whole new section here to work with like this suspension setup. But now that we've shifted everything backwards, it means we're going to be able to use this top hat section nicely, which is awesome. So we've got all this space to play with. So basically what we'll do is we will make a top hat that fits the S13 bolt pattern, and then we'll chop this out, weld our new top hat in, and that'll be pretty much that all said and done. So far, the whole kind of steering has been pretty smooth sailing. Very, very stoked with that because it means that our S13 front is going to work, and it was always a risk, obviously, with this kind of stuff. That is pretty much where we're going to get to in terms of the steering setup, just because I'm so restricted for time at the moment and have so much on. But I didn't want to leave you guys in the lurch for this episode. So my new turbo from Pulsar Turbos has turned up. I'm so freaking excited. It's at home, it's on my doorstep, so same video, but we're going to come back and we're going to fab up our turbo manifold. So at the moment, like I said in a previous episode, this is low mount. We're going to make this a top mount turbo manifold. For now, it's late. I'm gonna go home. We'll come back tomorrow morning and we'll get the turbo dummy mounted. I'll see you then. Bye. So we're gonna end this video with a bang. So I reached out to our good friends at Pulsar Turbos and I said, hey, I'm keen to put one of your turbos onto our CAs. I run them on both of my other cars, on the Datsun, here, the G25 550, and we also run the G30 660 Pulsar turbo on our BMW E36 competition drift car. They are really, really good turbos. And they came back and said, yep, we'll hook you up. Not for free, I wish, but they did hook up a nice deal for us and they sent us out our new turbo. They also sent us out some stickers and a lovely banner that we're gonna hang here at the workshop. But the most important thing, of course, is the turbo. And we purchased the G25 550 turbo right here. So they are a proven turbo on SR20s and CA18s. If you know me, you know I'm all about response. Numbers are numbers, right? So cool, I made 400 kilowatts, blah, 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 whatever. But if you've got a massively laggy turbo setup, especially on the street, but definitely for drifting as well, it's no fun because you're waiting, whoop, and then the turbo comes on and it's just not super drivable. I don't like it personally. The G3660 on the E36 is so responsive. It is absolutely perfect for that car. It makes 270 kilowatts on 14 PSI with that turbo, and we go up against cars with 800 horsepower and this thing holds its own nicely, and that's because we have a lot of response and a nice amount of grip in that car. So response is key, and this turbo should give us what we are looking for with this car. Lancers are super light, so if we can make some nice power with the CA, this car is going to be very quick, especially in the rear wheel drive configuration. Now I opted for the external wastegate version of this turbo. Let's get this plastic off. Boom. Look at this beautiful thing. So this is dual V-band, which means it's got V-band where it mounts up to the turbo manifold, and we've also got V-band back here where we have the dump pipe. Oof, look at this thing. Dual ball bearing turbo, so it'll spool up nice and quickly. We've also got the T51 R mod, so it'll sound super oh, look at that, super gangster. I got so G'd up when this thing turned up, and it turned up super quickly as well, which is lucky because we can put it in this video, that I want to mount this thing ASAP. So the turbo manifold that we have, this is a bottom mount manifold, which means it goes like this, mounts on the bottom, and we ain't about that noise. So what we're gonna do is cut this off the flange and flip it upside down, and I'm 99% sure that we can make this work nicely as a top mount manifold, which is cool because our engine is set so low in the engine bay, which is really nice. We should be able to fit the turbo top mount and still have the bonnet shut nicely with a lot of clearance. Fantastic. So we're going to chop this flange off, we're going to chop this flange off because we're going V-band, and then we can go ahead and see if we can tack it together in a top mount configuration. No time like the present, let's freaking go.
There's something so satisfying about taking something that doesn't quite tick all of the boxes and modifying it to make it work. The flange on the manifold actually ended up being warped. Luckily, our friends at Burnout's Unlimited shop sent us a brand new laser cut flange to suit our motor. One of the things I love about these Pulsar turbos is they come with the V-band flanges you need to fit the turbo. This saves so much time. Next up, we bolt our new flange to the motor and test fit the manifold. Once we're happy with the placement, it's time to tack it together. I then test fit the turbo and rotate the front housing to suit our application. We then tack on our V-band flange, and how good does that manifold look? Finally, it's time to fit up our brand new Pulsar turbo.
Once again, we have hit another massive milestone in this build. It was my goal in this video to get the turbo mounted, and it's freaking mounted. And look at how good that looks in our engine bay, guys. Holy crap. And the beauty of such a big engine bay, because of the front wheel driveness of it all, we have so much room. So look down here. Look where the dump pipe goes. You could fit a nice big dump pipe down there. So I'm pretty stoked. Honestly, so good. It's close to the power steering pump. We might have to make a wee heat shield there. It's not touching or anything like that, but we'll have to suss that out. So I will get Waz's opinion on that, and we'll go ahead and do what we need to make sure that that's nice and protected, so we're not cooking our power steering fluid, but maybe we'll just run a cooler in it. But like, that is so freaking cool. And I think that manifold worked out quite well. Like, it looks cool, not sure how it's gonna sound. CAs are very well renowned for sounding awesome, so I'm freaking crossing fingers that this does. Of course, we still have to fit an external wastegate in here as well, but we'll likely run that like underneath here. Again, I'll have to get Waz's opinion on where he wants to put that. We've done very well today getting that mounted. Oh, it's just so good. And then you can picture the intercooler piping and stuff coming off it. Woo, she's gonna look sick. And with that mounted, it now means we can pull the engine out of the bay and we can finish our engine bay and start painting it and stuff like that. So we're making really good headway to this build, but of course, there's still such a long way to go. Huge thank you to Pulsar Turbos for coming on board with the build. Very stoked. Links in the description if you want to check out the website. Right now, as of publishing this video, 66.1% of you guys who are watching this are not subscribed. If you're enjoying the series, feel free to hit that subscribe button. You have no idea how much it helps. Like I said earlier, we've got Fwd merchandise coming. Should be out in the next video, so you guys will be able to buy that, which is pretty rad. But until next time, thank you guys so much as always for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Yeah, peace, bye.